Einen wunderschönen guten Abend. Es ist Dienstag, es ist 19 Uhr und voller Vorfreude haben Sie schon auf Ihren Terminkalender geschaut und sind überrascht, wen wir, oder positiv angetan, wen wir diesmal für Sie in unser Studio oder auf Ihren Schirm geholt haben. Wir haben diesmal 3 Experten bei uns, die unsere Runde vervollständigen. Und sie sind alle 3 im Augenblick etwas überrascht, dass ich gerade Deutsch rede. Now, to settle you and get you back to normal mode, this is only the trick with the German introduction to make it a bit more fun. I'm very happy that we have now 3 experts in our small little living room and that we have the opportunity to get to know 3 experts. I'm going to start with 3, Sebezan, Mani Vanan, and David Picknell from Sevantiz. And I'm extremely curious, and forgive me if I spoke one of the names not properly. I think I didn't goof too much. So I'm very curious about what the solution setup is. And I would like to, if it's all right with you 3, to start to give us a little overview about what Sevantiz has achieved so far, and who are your co-gentlemen and experts? The floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Ralph, Thomas, and Marshall, for the opportunity to be in this forum. It definitely feels great. Thank you very much. Sevantiz, actually, the company we found about 3+ years ago. Our intent when we started Sevantiz was very simple. Okay, so pretty much most of us, or almost all of us in our company, have pretty much 30+ years experience in multiple different software companies, enterprise software, global companies, and whatnot. And we all had, a lot of different career paths. But we all got together and talked about, okay, there are a lot of these buzzwords, AI, ML, NLP, and these are all also used only by these very top tier, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. What is this really about? What is the real benefit for these in business process? How these can be really utilized for anybody that runs a business? How we can bring that as more as a commodity? That was our first intention. How we started working, digging into this space. We were. There are tons and tons of business cases that we were analyzing. Okay, where to apply this ML for more beneficial ROI, not ROI just for the users of our product, but also how to generate ROI for our company. Right, so we are investing on these things, and how do we make money out of all these things? At the end of the day, all business exists to make money, right? So that we were debating quite a lot. We were gathering a lot of information. We were putting together many different ideas. But at one point in time, it was very difficult for us to even say, what happened, the history of all our research. And we were digging, we are creating tons and tons of literatures, a lot of documents of different kind. But when we wanted to understand something, go back to research something more or find something, even in a small company, about 5-6 people, having only one small place like a storage space where we have loaded all our documents, it was extremely difficult to go and find the information that we were looking for. So this is where we were thinking, okay, if as a small company we are, there's 5 people, 6 people, when we are generating so much digital content, and we are finding it hard to go and find something, how are these other big companies are managing this? And we had, vast experience in implementing big solutions like large ERP solutions for big companies. And then, we realized that there's always this difficulty about even understanding the business process or even finding the knowledge sources that can talk about all these things. This is where the real challenge started. And that is how, as we dug more into this, that is how and where, the Flockwise was born. And the Flockwise is very simply put, it is, we all are familiar with knowledge worker, right? The terminology knowledge worker. And every company, every business invests heavily on knowledge worker. It's basically to build knowledge about the company, about the business process, about what they need to do, how to bring data and the process documents together. All these kind of, knowledge workers. So what we are attempting to do and what we have achieved so far is how to use this technology like AI, ML, natural language processing, NLP, and such, how we can bring it together in a way easily we can consume all these different patterns of documents and data sources that exist in any business and make have that information access to anybody who needs that information at much ease, and as well as not only but the ease, but the accuracy of the information, what they are getting is relevant to what they are looking for. That's what we have achieved with our technology. We can talk more about it as we go further. And along with me, Mani and Dave, who are the instrumental for our company together, they come also from very different backgrounds who are shaping up our solutions in a lot of different ways. Mani has a background of, extensive background in cyber security. And, the knowledge information in cybersecurity, how that is transforming and how it needs to come in, he's kind of helping us to bring that together in this solution. And Dave has, tons and tons of experience in business development and sales. So sales is a kind of, CR, when you're talking about CRM, which is kind of pretty much, connecting the sales team to the technology and to the business. And from the sales team perspective, or sales or support, or pretty much the customer centric roles, they always need more information than anyone else because they are connecting with customers, they are influencing many other people outside of the business to know about what the solutions or services are offered and how that is kind of going to benefit the other people. And there is always, the extended knowledge, extended research is needed for them to fulfill their work. And so Dave brings a very different dimension to our solution, how what we are building in Flockwise can differentiate and how that can change the world of CRM and the CRM personas. And that's kind of what we will discuss more about in this session as well.
Wow. Cybersecurity, I like very much.
I must also add something else that is not exactly in my resume. As a volunteer, I've been helping the Indian language computing, specifically Tamil. That's one of the languages of India. I've been advising the government of that state, Tamil Nadu, and I represented the government of Tamil Nadu in the Unicode technical committees. So I know the challenge of a non-English, Roman letters computing and on the internet. And I've been very involved in the natural language processing initiatives of the government of Tamil Nadu. And, I understand the perspective of, non-English world, so to speak. So that generally, that's not something that I would bring up in any technical forum, but in this case, I thought it's relevant.
Fascinating. Or like I learned, awesome.
Yeah, I would say that should be in your resume. Natural language processing,
yeah,
and the ability for us to understand one another is becoming absolutely mission critical. You can't have a product that only works in one language anymore. Coding is coding, but
Mhm.
information has got to work for all. So get that on your resume now. Well, maybe not now. I assume you're going to be in this job for a while. So it's okay.
We'll include him in the profile, not in the resume.
We can still get him added as, a one additional language to our multi-language set of products, because we have thought about that problem, and we do see, just a little segue in this, back to the customer experience, right? And there are so many sets of capabilities beginning to be delivered now for automated translation, and yet they don't ever quite get it right. Thomas was telling us a story a couple of weeks ago about translating a set of documents and a transcript from one of the recordings, and how difficult it was. And so the bigger set of challenges today is companies increasingly, even though they may be a small company operating in India, in the UK, in the US, even in Texas, we do have small companies in Texas, that they need to create translations because their customer base, in fact, is global. And the challenge is you can't just depend on the automated translation systems to create those translations. So having a mechanism, which we have in Flockwise, to really understand what is being used so that you can focus your translation efforts on the documents and the material that is truly being used is very valuable. So part of what we're really attempting to do is to give employees in companies, the management of companies, a way to further prioritize, to ask a simple question, they get one answer, one question, one answer, not one question, and here, you pick from the best available answers. My kids are grown, but I remember when they were teenagers, that was their favorite behavior, right? Get one answer from dad, one answer from mom, and one answer from just anybody else, and pick the one you like best. That's not to put too fine a point on it, but increasingly that has become enterprise search. What we want is the right answer to execute for the business to execute in the right way.
Why do you think it is that businesses so far didn't get that straight? I mean, it's pretty obvious a serious loss in efficiency and in fun at work if you just don't know how to do stuff and don't find the documentation as well. I have two perspectives. One is my own personal perspective. If somebody tells me there's only one answer, I'll probably go find another one because I think I can create a level of efficiency that maybe the other guy didn't. So that's right. But I think the much bigger problem is just our very human nature, that we find it difficult to keep things organized. We find it difficult to really find and focus on getting a simple process. At least those of us in the U.S. In Germany, you guys have a different view of that. You know the right answer. If we're confused, we should ask you, right? I just think it's a very difficult challenge, as Sri was talking about in our own little investigations. We have documentation stored in multiple different places, and we seem to find it difficult to find the one that we really wanted. So I think part of it is just pure human nature. Part of it is the search for a better solution. And as one customer told me, we only care about documentation when we're writing it. As soon as we finish, we just file it. And he implied, might as well throw it away, right? I'm sorry. I'm reminded of in my very early career, I worked with a guy. He was at corporate. I was a sales guy. You would call him to help you get things done. He would, back in the days of those old take note on pink slips, he would take the note. We would never hear from him again. When we finally went to meet with him, what we found out was that there was a trash can at the end of his desk. And if he didn't think the note was worth doing anything with, it went right in his file folder called the trash can. So anyway, bingo. So when we originally came together and started talking about this problem, we were focused on trying to solve the business process problem, right? There's thousands of pieces of document. And yes, there's process mining if you have things built into a system. But by and large, documents were being lost, outsourced, et cetera, et cetera. And then as we began to really dig into the set of capabilities, that's where I began to get very interested in how we apply this to enabling a sales rep to have 90% of that individual's day focused on the customer and only 10% doing research or other kinds of things. That drives all of our productivity. So I'll take a breath and let somebody else take this back.
Cool.
Yes.
Because while you were explaining some of the perspectives, I just had that funny flash of the déjà vu when I recall the challenge, not only the one I mentioned in the prep sheet, such as people were laid off or people are leaving the company through retirement, but that we do have the challenge that their knowledge is lost. If it's documented or not, it's gone.
Absolutely.
And for the next generation, it is a challenge to set up the skill again or reinvent the wheel. The other topic is you have these small organizations, multinationals called, like the Procter & Gamble's or the Rainsmart Tobacco or the BATs, which have plenty of products and staffs in marketing which have to liaise rules, regulations, and product contents, and have to find such idea management as working together and getting all the requirements together, and what would be the findings, such as they have research in the US, they have research in the UK, in France, and somewhere in South America, and nobody knows exactly where it is filed.
Yes.
And now we have the pleasure to say, hello, I just want the research and some suggestions on how to go to market to New Zealand with that specific cigar. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. You touched on very, very critical points, like two distinct problems in largely. So the first one you said, right, the knowledge worker, it's not that they are retiring or laid off or whatever. That is one problem. Also now, if you look at many businesses, whether it's small or big or bigger, they are all outsourcing. A lot of they are becoming cost conscious and they are outsourcing, and the outsourced resources are also getting replaced. Right, so they first, when they're outsourcing to different entity, and they start documenting a bit, and those resources also rotating, and so there is a continuous drain of this knowledge that goes on going away. So the companies are losing what we call it as tribal knowledge. So the tribal knowledge, how you are conducting your business, what is the basic business process, why you are even existing. I mean, many times you don't get that answer very clearly answered. right? And I'm sure you would have come across this kind of answers when you are talking to somebody. There is a customer service you are talking, or in a shop you are purchasing, or even in a big companies you are asking something. Hey, why this is not working, or why they will say simply, oh, that's what my computer does. They don't know. They don't know why the computer is doing the way what they all their explanation is, oh, my computer does it, so that's what it is. Hey, why can you process my refund? Oh, my computer is not telling me I can give you refund. That is not, so the business behind why that refund was not able to process, they don't know, right? So this is a kind of tribal knowledge is missing. Thomas was asking a question earlier. Why these enterprises are not, the enterprise search and things like that are not working. It's the kind of there's a connection to it here, right? So this whole knowledge displacement, I should say, right? So with people leaving, or this outsourced information, whatever all things are happening, the companies have heavily invested in content management in the last, pretty much like in the last decade, with the digitalization and digital transformation that was all happening. Companies spent an enormous amount of money in creating digital contents, be it like very sophisticated documents or PowerPoints and multiple other systems, like what I explained in the beginning and what Dave also mentioned. So the digital content grew and grew and grew as like an unmanageable situation. Even to find where did you put your document becomes an effort now, right? It is not only about finding the content that you want, but where all you have stored it, where to go and look for it. Even that information is missing. So the knowledge is that there is the lot of content got created at that one place, and the people who created the content is no longer there to maintain it up, making it, because things have changed underneath, and there is not much effort is put to keep the content updated or relevant. It is not only being updated, we need to have a relevant information about whatever you are searching for, and that relevancy is getting missed out these days. And so cumulatively, all these things, this is where, we think, the Flockwise as a solution can very well fit, because that's kind of what we are trying to bring together, whether you have source documents in any kind of form, if it is a Word document or PDF or Excel sheets, whatever that is, you're storing, and also from emails and chats, like, so nowadays, emails are pretty much, I don't think people are using, at least within the business, except for business to business, probably the emails are still there. But within business teams, people are using a lot of these, chat channels, right? So like a Slack or Microsoft Teams and things like that. People use those different channels. Mm-hmm. A lot of things are getting discussed there, and that information is getting lost, like what Dave was telling, somebody taking the notes and put it in the trash bin. Likewise here, they write a lot of things, they chat a lot of things in the chat bot, that is just kind of exists somewhere, right? So it's not that all that information, the knowledge that was shared there is not getting accumulated and, getting back into the content generation that has to go, right? So a lot of content improvements are and through all these exercises that they are doing, but somebody has to take that effort and go and update it, and exercise becomes very expensive for the companies, the enterprises, right? So that's why they are kind of moving away from, like, one of the big companies that we are working with, and as Dave said, the person we were working, they said, oh, we generate this document at the beginning of the project, and then, that's it. We just trash it, and then we don't even know where that exists, right? Because it takes effort and it takes money to keep that thing going. So that's, and even after all that, accessing that information becomes harder and harder. And so it's a kind of chicken and egg problem. Hey, I have to maintain a lot to keep things updated, and so I'm not doing it. And then, and even whatever I'm updating, I'm not able to get any benefit out of it. I'm not benefit. It's kind of goes to the circle. And that's the circle that we are breaking with our solution, Flockwise.
Now coming to the second problem.
Yes.
Such as the one that we create a lot of knowledge in the organization and guide it and secure it in several portals and file it, and it's not retrieved again, nor is it properly, let's say, analyzed and brought together for artificial research or for a proper decision worldwide, such as at a push of a button, get me all the research on that market, get me suggestions, what would be a suitable product and what be our next move from marketing perspective or product marketing perspective, and to get this all together. Because in SharePoint, this is no longer manageable. And if you imagine a large organization, a large enterprise like Procter & Gamble or something like that, and they want to go to market with a new Waschmittel. What is Waschmittel? Cleaning powder. Yeah, detergent. Thank you. Is there a chance that you can help those as well with Flockwise?
Sri, you're on mute.
See the core of what Flockwise is. The core of Flockwise is we have something called a Flockwise engine. The Flockwise engine is basically always pretty much 24/7. It is very vigilant and looking for where to get updates. Where in your system there is some new information is produced. It goes and keeps on looking for that new changes wherever it is happening, and it keeps tab of those things. For instance, like you said, you're producing a marketing literature, and you are released it for UK, and then you want to use the same thing for New Zealand or Australia or somewhere else. Somebody knows that that kind of document was produced for UK. They're not going to go and look for that document. And first, they need to have that knowledge. Okay, there is something exists that I can go and look for. So if that knowledge is not there, they are not even going to look for it. They are going to try creating something on their own, right? So here is where our kind of solution becomes efficiency in a lot better way. So you create it once, you put it there, wherever you put it, right? So you have only some definitive set of places where your enterprise assets are stored. So as long as that enterprise asset is configured within our system, when you are making some change, like you are putting a new document in there, our Flockwise engine will know there is this new document about this new product that is getting marketed in UK. It will know in its mind. And then somebody in New Zealand asking for, hey, I want to know about this detergent, cleaning detergent that is getting launched today. That, it immediately goes, oh, here is this information. Here is it as available. This is what presented. This is the whatever the marketing material related information. It can very specifically start giving it to you, and you can consume it in the way how you want. You can tailor it, and then you are making probably something new for your marketplace within New Zealand or within Australia, right? And then it kind of, and you created it, you know it, you stored it, and you can use it. Maybe there is another salesperson in the same region wants to know. Now they don't need to start from UK variant of the product. They can just go, oh, okay, there is something already created for me. I can reuse it. Right. So that kind of the information flow, even as manually, somebody need not kind of sit and do that. And this is the kind of power of the knowledge engine sitting in the back. It is finding what all different things happening relevant to your job function, and it kind of gathers that information for you at all the time. So whether it is marketing or sales or any function that you are doing, it has all the latest curated information on the relevant information that you need. The curated relevant information is at your fingertips that you can access anytime.
Extremely important for any organization. I'm wondering about the reverse side of that, though. We're talking here about ease of access and complete information throughout a business. What about information security and access control? Because on the one hand, say we're talking about salespeople who do come and go in an organization fairly often. They need to get up to speed on processes and products quickly to be able to be effective. On the other hand, you do not want them to be able to walk out of the business with proprietary information. And you need to be able to know who has looked at what and where it has gone. How does a company like Sevantiz and a product like Flockwise address that conflict?
All right.
Go ahead, Manny.
Okay. All right. Okay. There are touch points and there are data sources and, the access control. With multiple data sources, it's always risky that very sensitive information can be very easily accessible to anybody who knows how to query it. And it's not an easy problem to solve. And this is something that one needs to be ever vigilant about. And here is where I need to tell you about one of the mechanisms that we have, which is the front end. The front end is usually what the modern millennials are very, very comfortable using, chatbots. Okay, and a lot of these chat solutions are already pre-approved by the enterprises. Enterprises thoroughly vet them for any kind of leaks, and they put in the appropriate access control mechanism. They authenticate the user. So when they give the credentials of the user, we already know what type of user is coming in and what that person's role is, and whether that person's role needs to be elevated or reduced. And based on that, the solution that we display to that will be appropriately vetted. That's the standard role-based access control. And this is not something that we want to invent from scratch. This is something that the enterprises will insist that we should use what they are comfortable with. And rather than go, play all kinds of games with that, we just say, okay, we will live with whatever solution that you already have. Our engine will nicely and seamlessly integrate with whatever front end that your users are comfortable with, whatever access control mechanism that you implemented, and then let them define the roles. And for these appropriate roles, we will give them the correct answer appropriate for that role. And I think even that is probably not going to be perfect, because there will always be hackers, there will always be clever people who will try to game the system. And that is where AI needs to get better at it, because this needs to be inevitably logged, audited, verified, improved. And as a lifelong security person, I'm a paranoid person. I'm never happy with the solution that I've ever built, because there's always a crook who's smarter than you. So you learn from them.
Yeah. Oh, I'd just like to take a moment to apologize to any sales professionals who were listening there. I realized what I said sounded like I was just casting shade at salespeople, which is something that I often seem to do by accident a lot.
We're used to it, so it doesn't bother us at all.
Okay. I know you got a thick skin.
People as crooks. Yeah. Yes, I recall that mentioning.
Okay, I need to clarify that a little bit. This solution is not just for salespeople. Okay, this is also for support engineers answering questions, and also oftentimes end users directly querying your product. And you don't want to accidentally leak corporate information to random users. And because you bet anytime you expose your solution to the world, there will be determined attackers. Okay, no matter what you build in, there will be determined attackers who are always trying to game the system and who engineer products, okay, that constantly probe for weaknesses. So, this is not a particular attack on any particular user, but we need to acknowledge that in today's connected world, there will be attacks against your system, and we need to protect your sensitive information 24/7.
Marshall, I was going to say, your question triggered as we were building this product, and we had our own document storage place where we have kept all company details and everything, right? So it all has a kind of specific access rights about who can access which folders and so forth. But when we first introduced this for our own usage, when we started querying certain things, it was bringing some information which was not relevant for all the audience. So that's a very relevant point that you raised. We, as we were developing the solution, we went into that. Some of the confidential information got exposed to variety of people within our organization. So definitely that's where what Mani said. We got into the much more role-based access, and all that mapping is also reflected part of our access rights. So it becomes a very foolproof. As a corporate, whatever the access rights that you have in your own system be reciprocated in our environment, and that is how we protect the information access.
I think the other thing, in addition to Manny touched on it, and that is the chat interface that is increasingly the vehicle of communications in companies today. And the ability to structure security around it is one aspect. The other aspect is you don't have a whole new user interface that you have to learn and have to accept and have to deal with. There have been, every engineer that's ever built software believes that they have the coolest user interface on the planet. Cool doesn't mean I want to change as a user. I just want to use the things I'm used to using, the things I know how to use, and I just want the answers, whatever they are, to come in that form. And so in addition to utilizing role and security that's already being built into the chat environments by all of those vendors, whether it's Microsoft or now Salesforce with Slack, etc., there is a user interface that as we see the millennials come to work, the Gen, whatever we call every other generation of new people coming to work, increasingly they are using a chat channel. They don't care about email. They don't care about anything else. Hi, how are you? My name is Fred, and I need to ask you a question. And we want to capture all that and facilitate people utilizing that. And the interesting thing is the enterprise vendors, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, etc., all tried to create their own chat environments. And the only place they really got accepted was a little bit for the people that use those products every day. But if you don't use those products, you're using some other chat channel. And in fact, in our own company, we do a lot of WhatsApp. And so you can look, is the answer in WhatsApp? Is the answer in Slack? Is the answer in email? Did I file the answer, or is it still stuck in some email attachment somewhere? Those are the problems, as mundane as they are, that Flockwise solves. So that's my comment.
Yeah. The mundane problems are the ones that usually need to be solved the most.
Yeah.
Because they're all over the place. Mundane is common. Common is big. So everyone has them. No shame there, man.
Good. If we get that part right, we're in good shape.
Yeah, on top of that, we now need to deal with people working remotely and are communicating over video. There are tons and tons of Zoom calls that need to be transcribed and looked for, because information exchange is not just in text. It's now in video and audio. So we need to remember that as well.
It's true. The story that you heard from Thomas before about, well, that you had heard in another conversation from Thomas about the transcript, I was part of that story. And reading things and understanding them is basically the core of my career, because I'm a writer at heart and an editor. And if you give me something that's in my language that I can't understand, it breaks my mind.
And
so
making
the
it
clarity of communication is so incredibly important. You're absolutely right there.
Right. So I will give you a couple of different kind of scenarios, especially how all this fits into the kind of CRM kind of scenario as well, right? So Ralph talked about the marketing material, and so we were talking to one of our potential customer recently, and this person, they have global sales organization, and they have this annual kickoff meeting where they broadcast videos about their product roadmap and what they are going to sell, what they are going to achieve. I mean, so many things that they speak, and pretty much, it's all broadcasted in a video. And not everything what's said in the meeting is transcribed in a PowerPoint or other materials. They normally get a PowerPoint package. Hey, here is what it is. Take it, and then they speak so much around that in the meeting. And when the sales team now wants to take it and process this PowerPoint and whatever, and they customize it for some of the customers they are working with, this person said, "Oh, you know what? I had this question. I thought I heard this somewhere, but it's not there in this PowerPoint." And then he was given tons of these videos. I said, "It is somewhere in this video. Go and search for it." And then they have to play the videos for 2-hour video, 3-hour video to find that one little thing, the one reference that he wanted to put it in there is thing. And here is where the tools like Flockwise becomes very handy. Whether it is an audio file, video file, we will, as long as you put it in part of our system, it can find those, all that you need to ask is like, what are you looking for? And it can fetch you, okay, this is the video, and on that day, and this video in the 12th minute, and there is an occurrence of this particular thing. Right, so that kind of information is given to you, so you can go straight to that video, straight to that point, get that information. And that's the power of Flockwise that we are talking about for sales or marketing communities, that they will be benefiting from our solution.
That is excellent. I love to see things like that in action.
What at the end, or at the start rather, not at the end, at the start of a project, what we have is an empty system. So what does it take to get this system operational?
Yeah, this system, to make it operational, is, fundamentally you need to have two things to get things operated, right? So you should have some set of information sources. It can be any kind of documents. And as I said, whether it's unstructured data, or from social media, or some external sources, web services, whatever that is that you want to kind of gather information from, you at least need to have that list of source that you want to get that. That is the basic thing that you need to list. And then how do you want to be served? How do you want to be served? As Dave was telling before, you want a Slack or Microsoft Teams, which is very popular in your organization, which you have already vetted and used, right? So you need to have that selection. If you don't have that, we have our own way of chatbot that we will give from Clockwise chatbot, but you don't want to introduce any new experience anyway. So if you already have one selected a chat channel or an access channel, you need to have that. So those are the only two things you need to get plugged into our system. And then, of course, the users and with the user roles and things like that. The access for the users and the source. Defined part of our system, you have immediately the basic ability to start, asking questions, find answers, and narrow down. Right. So that's kind of pretty much to get started. The system takes a little time to self-learn about, okay, who is Thomas, and then, what Thomas is always coming up with. Thomas requires these kind of questions, these kind of answers, and it kind of fine-tunes the for Thomas, based on the machine learning. And similarly, if Marshall is asking, maybe Marshall is looking for similar information, but he looks for something different in some different way, the system understands that and it provides that kind of learning. It will take time. Though, to have that kind of personalized impact for individuals, it will take time as the system learns those individual behaviors. But otherwise, to get started, you need to have the source and you have access rights and access channels defined. Those are the only two things you need to benefit from our system.
And how can I technically look at it? Do you ingest the documents or the documentation, or do you just in quotes index it and make it available indirectly then?
So there are a variety of technologies used under the hood. We describe as a Clockwise engine. The Clockwise engine is a very comprehensive set of capabilities, right? So it does so many different things. How it gathers the information from different sources, right? So if the information is from a very, very large file, like for example, like any salesperson going to go and sell for sell to a customer, the person wants to understand about the company a lot more, and the best immediate choice where they go is this annual reports, the company's annual reports. They flip pages and pages and pages, understand, this is all the kind of information that they want to gather from that annual report. They need to go to that volume of pages right? So, if that is the kind of information that you want to gather, you point to the source of that, the annual report. You ask those questions within seconds, within actually sub-seconds, our system can find you answers, right? So that kind of, power that we will be able to get. And depends on those kind of, and if it is that kind of volume, there is a different kind of technology or algorithms that we use. If it is, or maybe you are already a curated set of FAQs that you have. So if you want to go and find answer from that, it's kind of very simple way that we will be able to do. Or from this kind of some sales scenarios, you may see, like, even before you start using the kind of CRM system where you start logging the prospects and whatnot, before you even start putting that prospect in the system, you are doing a lot more research about the prospect. You are looking into the connections, and where you are probably using LinkedIn or many other different social media to understand about the customer and the prospect a lot more. So you are gathering all these different information, and that information is continuously used. It is not once, like you are continuously using that information until you close the deal. And maybe even after that, you are going to transfer all that information to your proper CRM system for a structured approach that you want to take. So for all these things, there is a kind of different technology we use. I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is all that even research you will be able to use with the Clockwise. So suppose you are talking to a company, you are going through that their annual report, and then you know who is the buyer, and then you want to know about the buyer, who are all the contacts of the buyer, and whether you had any other person from your company handled this customer before, or what was the result. I mean, there are so many tons of research that you do All that research you will be able to do using the system. To answer your question, Thomas, each of these has a different kind of source and different type of source that we need to gather information from. And so it's not like one technology like indexing that what chat boxes, AI chatbots use traditionally. We are far away from that, and far more deeper into using multiple different technology under the hood to collect this information, keep it in that in the presentable form, and that is what is the Flackwise engine is about.
Mm-hmm.
That answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Now we had this. David, you wanted to say something?
No. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. So we had touched this before. A lot of the knowledge in an organization is tacit knowledge or tribal knowledge. So until we have Elon Musk with his brain implant chip come to life, we somehow need to be able to get to that knowledge as well. So how do you suggest, or how does a platform like Flackwise would address this?
Well, we believe, based on what we've seen to date, that much of that information is increasingly in a chat channel. So I had a conversation with somebody 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. I can't quite remember even who the person was, but I know that we talked about that topic and we have an answer. Mm-hmm. So we now find that answer. The engine finds that answer in the curated information in the channel and brings it forward. There is and the Flackwise is always asking the question, does that answer your question? Does this answer your question? And so I'm collecting that set of statistics and utilizing that as a confidence level in that. In addition, when you're talking about a business process, you talk about a process owner. So a process owner has visibility of all of this. They can curate information, they can add information to the channel. More importantly, they can see the questions that are being asked that aren't being answered. As a sales VP, the most important questions are the ones that are coming from our prospects that we're not clearly answering, because clarity helps people make a decision. If they can't have a clear answer, they will hesitate. Hesitation costs deals. So the better I understand where my salespeople don't have good information, accurate information, either I can supply that or I can get the right resource in the organization to make sure they supply that. So that in fact is a core part, and quite frankly, one of the reasons that we think of ourselves as vendor agnostic. So we're not just building on top of an Azure or an AWS or a Google or any of the other things. We're looking at the core set of problems. What is the best available technology to deliver that solution? And if a better technology shows up in 6 months, which is often the case in this domain, how do we pull that in? How do we make that available into the engine? Because quite frankly, some of the things that we wanted to do 9 months ago, we really had a very difficult time doing. Mm-hmm. Today, it's very straightforward. I ask a question of a whole series of documents, and I get not only the answer, but I get the answer highlighted in the paragraph of context. So I understand that answer in the context that it was presented originally. That capability was not available to us 9 months ago. So we think that's another critical, important capability of the solution, is to have this ability to pull additional technologies in as they are ready for enterprise level production, which is back to Manny's point. somebody's going to try to break the thing every single day and get access to something that they don't deserve and or shouldn't have. And many of the academic work that may be far advanced in terms of capability doesn't have this core enterprise production capability around it. So that's another key part of what we're trying to deliver.
There's another thing we've gotten close to talking about here, but I don't think we have. And it's the weak part of every piece of technology, which is the guy at the keyboard, the user. It's unfortunate.
Disconnect.
Security risk.
Yeah, the ID10T problem.
Yeah.
How do we deal with people in the organization not knowing what it is they know and not knowing what it is they don't know? I've seen a number of organizations that had all kinds of knowledge management and enterprise search tools that didn't get used, or they had multiple such tools running concurrently, and nobody could find anything. And that wasn't the fault of the tools. They were fine. The problem was the people either didn't know how to use them, or didn't know they were there, or simply didn't think to access them because they believed they knew that they had the answer, or it never occurred to them to look. I know that you're primarily a creator of a technology, a tool, and a very good one. How do you deal with the human problem?
Let me take a crack at it. I led a consumer support and technical support team in India that was supporting the Norton series of products. We had 100 million users, and as you know, the consumer desktop products were being sold for a pittance, $30 to $100 or thereabouts, and the technical support is free. Imagine free. You have one bug, 100 million users try to call you, you're dead. So you need to make sure that you ship a product that is as close to perfection as possible. And then, even then, there will always be users who will call you. And most users do not read the documents. They do not use the product. They do not read the error message. They have a problem that they cannot solve, pick up the phone and call, particularly if it's free. And in order to serve that particular customer, if the technical support agent is going to be stupid enough to think that, okay, I know all the answers, he is not going to last on the job very long. And one thing that I learned by actually leading them is that they're quite aggressive in trying to find the better solution every day. They're never happy. Here's the thing, a lot of us engineers used to think that we knew our product better than anybody else. It turns out that the support agents know about the products far more than we do, because we only have a very narrow window of what we built. Whereas the support agent has dealt with million plus customers trying to probe every nook and corner. So he needs to know the answer to it and needs to know it now. Okay, he cannot even be looking. He needs to know it now. And that's why, when I go stand behind them, you see that they have a million possible windows. The guy is not even looking at it because he has already seen that. And instantly he knows which window to click at, which tool to use, and which answers to find and give it. I've been amazed about their capability. If I had been in that seat, even if I had written that program myself, I'd be stumbling for words. Whereas the agents, they know, they're tuned to the users, they're tuned to the tool. So I have a lot of faith in the user trying to find the best solution. Yes, there'll always be some people who are not very good at what they do, and they will not use the products or tools effectively. It's for their bosses to find out who they are and train them to make sure that they use the product, or find a company where they can be comfortable with.
Okay, so Sri, you had.
I was going probably, what he gave a very nice example. What I was going to say is, there are a lot of plenty of information is available for a on-call, the customer support engineer or sales engineer or anybody who's working on that particular business function. As we discussed before, and we all know, like the tons and tons of material is available. So, but where to go and what kind of information is accessed or needed is always the challenge. A lot of silos, even if in a simple customer kind of customer support scenarios, there are multiple databases that companies maintain, third-party knowledge bases, and then there are different kind of support tools. And then very specifically, the very specific content, the contact center data, how that is, how they are, whatever they are maintaining there, and then the sales database. There are so many different access points that they have. That information is kept siloed. In addition to that, nowadays, if you think of, there are a lot of user forums. In the user forums, people are finding answers for problems much faster than even the support engineer can find answers. I mean, these are all there available for you. So, and finding that information, very quickly curate it and make sure that is a relevant information is what the people are needing, right? So it is just every minute they waste analyzing all these things is going to another unhappy customer. So this is where the power, and then the usage. I mean, nowadays a lot of solutions are there, and it is like a web plugins, like web page, the browser plugins, and there are a lot of other kind of extra steps that you need to do in order to go and look for some information. Like the plugins created its own variety of security problems, so people, many vendors, many enterprises, they don't want to implement that kind of web plugins because it's vulnerable for attacks and so forth. And then the people have to learn different tools and technologies to go and look for information. What is the difference here that we are bringing is they don't need to change any of their behaviors. So companies are standardizing on these chat channels like MS Team or Slack or Telegram or whatever those are. They are standardizing and they know how to use it. And our solution just fits right there in exactly what they are used to, so that there is no extra training, there is no extra thing. And then they use the same thing. Now we are talking about generation Zoomers, right? So the Gen Z is generation Zoomers, they call these days. And all that they know is how to type fast. They know these two fingers, they type fast. But they more futuristic workforce that are coming in, right? So they want to know that. And so it is easy. They know all these kind of tools. Before even coming to the workforce, they know how to use these tools very effectively in the social setup, what they have learned. So again, what we are trying to here is none of either the existing workforce or the newer Zoomers, they don't need to learn anything new other than what they have already been trained, which is the biggest advantage for workforce to be productive immediately, to answer your question, Marshall. So that is kind of the one easy step that we are introducing to break the barrier of learning something, multiple things to find their answers. And second, our ability to quickly curate all these different information from different silos and bring it to one pool. So we have a selective answer, that one answer, one question, the kind of paradigm that we are moving to is helping them to achieve what they need to achieve. So it's kind of mix of those two makes it easier in the life.
David, your take on this question?
So I've had a couple of different personal examples. One where we gave the Salesforce access to Confluence and Jira, so they could get any question answered about any topic that they had. It did not work that well. There were too many answers that were not well curated.
not well thought through, and you had lots of partial data, and pretty quickly they actually quit using it because it was just harder than going to the chat channel and asking Jim, what's the answer to this question? In another experience, there was one chat channel configured for all the SEs, all the sales engineers. And any question that anyone had, so this is the manual version of Flockwise. Any question you have, you put in that channel. Sooner or later, somebody will give you an answer. And if others don't like that answer, they will correct it. As all good SEs know that they're smarter than anybody else in the room. If you don't believe them, ask them. But anyway, so that's the manual version, and it's around that notion that people are comfortable using chat. They understand how to ask a question, and the technology is now sufficient to provide answers. Is it magic? No. Will it give an incorrect answer? Yes, from time to time. And therefore, it's important to have tools around it that give you metrics about the questions, metrics about the answers, and that you have experts connected into the channel who can curate the data and curate the information. And it's those three pieces that produce a coherent and holistic solution. At least that's what we've seen thus far. Thanks, Thomas.
You're welcome. That sounds like perfect, famous last words, actually.
Yeah, that's my fear.
we had our hour of interesting information, and well, thanks for the three of you to be here, to join us, and to answer stupid questions. Maybe some not so stupid ones, especially if they come out of the non-Thomas direction. So, and well, to the audience who's still there, goodbye and see you next time.
And our thank you to all of you. We really appreciate this.
It was our pleasure too. It was great meeting
The pleasure
you.
was ours.
Fun and informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.